developed insomnia, spending nights checking security cameras and door locks. I found myself constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering when Georgia would appear next. The stress began affecting Sam too. He became fussy and difficult to settle, as if sensing the tension around him. His weight gain slowed, concerning his doctors. They ran tests but found nothing physically wrong. He was simply responding to the anxiety permeating our lives. 3 weeks before the trial, we received devastating news. Theodore McTheodore had successfully petitioned for a competency evaluation, claiming Georgia wasn't mentally fit to stand trial. If the evaluation supported his claim, the criminal case could be suspended indefinitely while Georgia underwent treatment. The prosecutor explained that this was a common defense tactic in cases involving mental illness. If Georgia was deemed incompetent, she'd be sent to a psychiatric facility until doctors declared her fit for trial, a process that could take months or even years. During that time, she'd have access to better treatment than prison would provide. My husband slammed his fist on the table when we heard this news. All our evidence, all our preparation, might be for nothing if Georgia could convince evaluators that she didn't understand the charges against her. Theodore McTheodore had found another potential loophole, another way to help Georgia avoid consequences. We attended the competency hearing, watching as Georgia played up her delusions for the evaluators. She referred to Sam as Josh throughout, claiming she didn't understand why she was being kept from her baby. She cried about missing his first words, his first steps, all the milestones she'd imagined for the child she'd lost years ago. The evaluators asked Georgia direct questions about the charges against her. She responded with confusion, insisting she'd only been trying to bring her baby home. When asked about the fake documents, she claimed they were real, that someone must have switched them to frame her. Her performance was convincing in its consistency. My parents testified during this hearing too, supporting Georgia's confusion. They claimed she'd been calling Sam by the name Josh for months, that she genuinely couldn't distinguish between her deceased baby and Sam. Their testimony lent credibility to Georgia's act, making it harder for evaluators to see through the manipulation. After 3 days of evaluation and testimony, we waited anxiously for the results. The lead evaluator finally delivered her findings. Georgia was competent to stand trial. While she suffered from delusional disorder, she understood the nature of the charges and could assist in her own defense. The criminal trial would proceed as scheduled. Georgia's mask slipped for just a moment when the ruling was announced. I saw a flash of rage cross her face before she resumed her confused, fragile act. Theodore McTheodore immediately filed an appeal, but the judge denied it. We would finally have our day in court. The remaining weeks before trial passed in a blur of preparation and continued harassment. Georgia's supporters grew more vocal, organizing protests outside the courthouse. They held signs declaring, "Mental illness is not a crime," and "Justice for Georgia." Local news picked up the story, forcing us to dodge reporters whenever we left home. My parents gave interviews to anyone who would listen, painting us as cruel relatives who'd driven Georgia to breakdown. They shared old family photos, showing happier times when we'd all gotten along. The narrative they spun made me sick, as if we'd chosen this situation, as if we'd wanted our lives destroyed. Through it all, we focused on protecting our children and preparing for trial. We practiced our testimony until we could recite every detail without breaking down. We gathered character witnesses who'd seen Georgia's escalating behavior firsthand. We documented every incident, every threat, every violation of the restraining order. The night before trial was set to begin, I lay awake holding Sam close. His breathing had finally returned to normal, his weight back on track. He was healing physically, but I wondered about the psychological impact of his early trauma. Would he somehow remember the terror of those days with Georgia? My husband wrapped his arms around both of us.